Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so happy that you're part of our beautiful Reading with Your Kids family. Please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, wherever you find your podcasts. Our guest today is Nadine Haruni. She's here to tell us about her Freeda the Frog series. In just a few seconds, we'll be meeting Nadine. In just a few days, the Reading with Your Kids podcast will be at the East Boston branch of the Boston Public Library for the Reading with Your Kids Day. We are so excited. It's all happening March 21st, noon to 3 p.m. The East Boston branch of the Boston Public Library is a wonderful palace to literacy. And we are going to bring our totally interactive magic show, our magic workshop, also to story times, prizes, and we're also going to have a very special parenting workshop presented by the Boston Public Schools Parent University. It's all happening March 21st at the East Boston branch of the Boston Public Library. And later in April, on April 5th, join us at Kingston Collection. We're going to be part of the South Shore Kids Expo. That's also happening in the afternoon, noon to 3. It is all happening at Kingston Collection. Come on down. You can be a part of a future episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. 2 great live events, March 21st at the East Boston branch of the Boston Public Library and April 5th at Kingston Collection for the South Shore Kids Expo. Come on out and join us, the Reading with Your Kids podcast live. Joining us on the line right now from the beautiful North Jersey area, one of my favorite places in the world. She is the author of the Freeda the Frog series. Please welcome to the show, Nadine Haruni. Nadine, how are you?
Thank you. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm really excited to have you on celebrating Freeda the Frog. We're going to start off by acknowledging that I have a bit of a frog in my voice right now, so I don't think it's Freeda, maybe one of her cousins. But if I cough at some point during the interview, I apologize in advance.
Well, we appreciate the gesture.
So tell us about the Freeda the Frog series here. Now, as I understand, there are 5 books in the series?
Yeah. Well, there's 4 books currently that you can purchase that are out. The 5th book is due to release hopefully as of now, it's June 2nd of this year. So there's 4 books, and each book has a separate focus, but sort of picks up where the last one left off. And the idea is for the kids to sort of get to know the characters and follow along as they go through different things or meet different types of families. And basically the theme of the books is kind of recognizing that not every family looks the same, and helping kids whose family may not look like the traditional family recognize that their family is no less special than anyone else's. And it's also to encourage awareness and empathy with kids whose friends may be in a particular situation that they don't really know much about.
Now, one of the things that struck me, and I love this because, and I love what the last statement you said is, we're helping kids understand that every family is different and helping them acknowledge that if their family is different, that their family is valued, but also helping kids who may come from more traditional kind of family settings understand that there are kids in different types of families, and it's important for them to understand what kind of lives these other kids are living, and understand that those families are just as valued as ones that we might consider more traditional.
Exactly.
Yeah. And what I thought was really, really interesting when we were talking before the show, you're talking about the original Freeda the Frog book. So many authors come on, they tell me, well, I wrote this book because my kids were going through this issue or that issue. But you tell me you wrote the original Freeda the Frog book because your mom was going through an issue. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, exactly. My mom she's the original Freeda. So this was back in 1998. I took a class writing and illustrating children's books at a local college in New York, and we had to pick a topic to write about. My mom at the time was going through a divorce, and she was a little down in the dumps, so I decided to kind of make this cute frog character with glasses and write a story for her. It was just called Freeda the Frog at the time, and it was just about a frog who is married and gets divorced, and she has tadpoles. And I never really did anything with it. But I knew in the back of my mind I did want to be a children's book author. And then fast forward to the fact that now, many, many years later, I was going through a divorce. My kids were 1 and 4, and I felt that while there were other books out there on divorce, there weren't really that many that were kind of what I was looking for, which was kind of to explain the subject in sort of a matter-of-fact way, but that was also hard to say upbeat, but upbeat in that it was a cute frog and colorful characters to try to convey a message to the kids that they should express their feelings and that everything's going to be okay even if mommy and daddy don't live on the same lily pad.
Yeah, so very important, and I love that you decided that the way to help your mom through a really difficult situation was to create a fun, cute, little illustrated character and a cute kind of kid story. So many people discount kids' books, and it's just, oh, that's a kid's book, and they don't see any value beyond, age 5 or 6 perhaps. But I think there's so much wisdom in kids' books. And as I was sharing with Nadine beforehand, I am an educational magician. I'm on stage. One of the hardest lessons for me to learn was the idea of less is more. And sometimes we can say more with fewer words, with simpler language than we can with 1,000 pages of text.
I completely agree, and that's what I was trying to get across in the books. I mean, the general theme is helping kids feel safe to express their feelings to teachers, to friends, to parents, and know that and feel not self-conscious just if their family doesn't look like everybody else's. But the books are kind of geared for, I guess, a very wide age range, even though if you look on the website, there's a tab for educators and it has the professional leveling information for the schools. And officially they say that my books are for grades 3 through 6. I've gotten feedback from librarians and psychologists and guidance counselors and teachers that have used the books. Well, little kids seem to like the characters and it's colorful and it's cute. And older kids seem to resonate with the message. It's a little more of a complicated message. So it's really pre-K and all of elementary. Surprisingly, on my @Freeda the Frog Instagram page, I've had a couple of teen kids write to me to tell me that they're related to one of the particular topics of a book and that it helped them. So I guess it's kind of a wide age range that I hope the books are reaching and helping.
Well, yeah, I think it is. I have to admit, one time I saw a high school summer reading list, and it was for an inner city high school, and I was looking at it, and I was really disturbed because I recognized a lot of the titles on this high school reading list, and I went to this classical traditional college prep high school, and in the summertime we were supposed to read the Odyssey and Beowulf and all these classics, which probably none of us read. But I'm looking at this high school reading list, and there were some classics, but there were also some picture books listed and some middle grade books. And I'm thinking, well, they must do this because these are inner city kids, and maybe a lot of them can't read, or their reading level isn't up to what other school systems, where other kids might be reading. But I think, I was looking at that with a really, really narrow mind and not understanding that there are great lessons that can be found in texts that were originally written for younger kids, or that people think are written for younger kids.
Exactly. I mean, just look at, let's say, Dr. Seuss. So many parents buy for their kids that are graduating high school books like The Places You'll Go, because even though it was written to be a kid's book, but older kids can resonate with what the big picture or the big message about the book is about.
Now, we found that the first book in the series it addressed the issue of divorce. Before we move on to find out what the other issues were, we heard, that you've gotten some great feedback from educators and from some high school kids. I'm just curious what the feedback was from your mom.
Oh, she loved it, of course. And she's excited. She always hated her name Freeda growing up. So now she's kind of excited that Freeda's may become more of a household name as time goes on. So that makes her happy. But she's pretty happy about it.
Well, let's talk about the 3 other books that are available right now.
Sure. So each of the books, for me, it was very easy to write these books because they were topics that my kids and I we could relate to, or were situations we were going through. And I felt like if I was going through these situations that a lot of other kids or families would be as well. So it wasn't, these weren't such unique situations for me and my family. So as I said, each book picks up where the last one left off. So in the first book, they get divorced. In the next book, Freeda, she's a single frog, and she meets a blue frog named Samson, and he has a blue tadpole. They fall in love and they get married, and the kids find out that that not all frogs are green, that frogs can be blue or yellow or red or rainbow colored, and to basically it doesn't matter what the color of the outside of a frog's skin is. All that matters is what's on the inside. It actually sounds kind of gross now that I'm saying it like that, but you understand. I mean, what matters is, what's inside a person. It doesn't matter, not to judge a book by its cover. Mm-hmm. So, and my family, we're a blended family. I got remarried. My husband's a different ethnicity, and I have, stepdaughters, and now we're a bigger family. So that was Freeda the Frog and her new blue family. And then in the third book, the lily pad is getting kind of crowded, as you can imagine, and they decide they need to move to a bigger lily pad. So that's Freeda the Frog is on the move, which was me and my kids. We left New York City and we moved to New Jersey, and we were in a smaller apartment in the city, and now we got a bigger house, all of us together. So Freeda the Frog is on the move. The family needs to move to a bigger lily pad, so they find one in the neighboring town of Port Frogifly. And, and of course the kids at first are really annoyed and they're upset, and they go into their room because they were excited about moving to a new lily pad, but they weren't excited to move to a new town. So the book is not only for moving, but it's for, any kind of major life change or transition kids are going through. So it could be changing, let's say, not just houses or towns, but also like pre-K to elementary school or elementary to middle school, or just any kind of major life shift. And the theme is really helping kids see that change doesn't have to be so scary after all. And we kind of get into some things in the third book from the second book. And the second book, just going back for a moment, is not just for step families, but for mixed race, mixed religion, ethnicity. Not every family is the traditionally, let's say all the members are the same ethnicity or race. So we touch upon that again, and Freeda the Frog is on the move. And then in the fourth book, which is Freeda the Frog Says Farewell to Her Fish, for me, that book came about because my grandma died, and my kids knew my grandma, and they were close with her like I was. So it was difficult. So we had the family, the frog family, in their new town. They went to a county fair and they wanted pet fish, and unfortunately Goldie the fish didn't make it. So it's helping kids deal with a real life thing, which is love and loss. Mm-hmm. So that's the first 4 books, and future topics, as we said before, there's a new book coming out in June, but all future topics, they're not necessarily all topics that my family and I can relate to, but they're topics that I feel are important to get out there, whether it's different types of family situations or real life situations or types of people that other kids might meet. So we're going to have other topics aside from the new book, which is on gay families. We're going to have adoption, disabilities, special needs kids, parent going back to work, and a new baby sibling. So ultimately there'll be about a dozen books in the series. That's
wonderful. You're talking about on the move, and I can imagine what a culture shock it would be. People, if you're not familiar, North Jersey and New York City, they're only separated by a bridge. but it might as well be an ocean because the lifestyle is incredibly different. You go from living in, most people in New York City are living in a closet, and you just go across the river and, people are living in these beautiful homes with backyards and sidewalks and streets, and it can be a very, very huge culture shock, I'm sure.
Yeah, and actually you have to drive in a car. We walked everywhere. We would take the bus or subway, but generally we were big walkers in the city, and now we drive just to go around the corner pretty much.
Talk to us about the book that's coming out in the very near future. Freeda the Frog, Two Mamas, I think it's called.
Yep, it's close. Freeda the Frog and the Two Mamas Next Door. So in this book, the fifth book, the frog family meets a new family that just moved to Port Frogafly on the lily pad next door, and their friend Jessica, and Jessica has two moms. And in general, the book is about the fact, not just two moms, but gay families addressing same-sex parents or different types of family units we talk about on a bigger scale. Just the kids didn't understand that why Jessica, their friend, didn't have a daddy. And Jessica explained, I have two parents just like you do. They just happen to be two mommies and not a mom and a dad. And the Freeda and Samson are talking to the tadpoles about it, and they explain that sometimes some families have a mom and a dad, some have two moms, some have two dads, some have single parents, and so on, that there's lots of different types of parents out there. And I felt that this topic was really important to get out there because coming from New York City, I had a lot of friends who had, or let's say my kids had friends who had gay parents, and in the suburbs it wasn't such a common thing, and I felt that was a really important topic to get out there.
And I think it's real important. I imagine there may be folks out there who may have misunderstandings, or they may have objections to different types of lifestyle based on religion or culture. But I think this is real important. It doesn't matter where you stand, in your faith. I know that every faith out there teaches that everyone should be respected. And
right.
So I think that a book like this is wonderful. It's a wonderful way to start a dialogue, and you can express some of your views. But the one view that you need that I think is important for every family to express is that it doesn't matter what type of family somebody is living in. Every single person is a human being and deserves to be respected and loved.
Completely agree. And that's what I'm trying to get across to kids, to help them just be more aware of what's going on around them and empathetic. And for me, these books are meant to be tools, really useful tools for parents, for teachers, for psychologists to kind of open up a conversation. And I do have at the end of each of the books, I have discussion questions to sort of provoke further conversation with the kids about some things that may have come up in the book. To get kids thinking. So
I wanted to share with you, Nadine.
Basically, to not end the discussion.
I wanted to share this with you, Nadine. Nadine was asking me beforehand what does it mean to be an educational magician, and so sharing with her a little bit. I was doing a show one time, Nadine, up in very rural Maine. And one of the things I do, whether I'm talking about bullying or making healthy choices, is that I always want kids to first understand how much they have. Because I think it's when we understand how grateful we are that we're open to learn some lessons. And so one of my techniques is I hand out these little beads, and we're going to use these beads and turn them magically into a necklace. But I ask the kids who are holding the individual beads to think about something that they're thankful for, and then to tell me about it as I come around and collect the beads. And it's a really been a wonderful experience because 99.9% of the kids say that they're thankful for their families, their friends. They're thankful that they're able to help somebody else. They're thankful for their homes, that they have enough food to eat. But this one person, young man up in Maine, probably 8 or 9 years old, and he stood up and he was at the back of the room and he's really shy. And I said, hey, what are you thankful for? and he kind of hesitated, and he said, Jedley, you don't know me, and a lot of the kids here don't know me because I'm new. I'm a foster kid. Well, I was a foster kid until yesterday. 2 guys adopted me, and now for the first time in my life, I have a family. And the place, I heard that, and I just loved it. But I was, like I said, I was in a very rural part of Maine. I was a little bit, was wondering what the reaction was. And it was a beautiful reaction. Everybody cheered for this kid.
That's so nice.
Yeah. Now, you don't have a background. You weren't trained to be a children's author. You kind of have a very different career. How did you get from that career to writing children's books? Or was it just that your mom was in this place and you were taking a class, or was there always a little bug inside you saying that you wanted to do some writing, and especially writing for kids?
So I was always as a hobby a writer. I would always write when I was younger, short stories and poems, and I took writing classes and stuff like that. I knew kind of in the back of my mind I did want to be actually a children's book author. So that was kind of always sort of gnawing at me in the back of my mind. Now for me, I didn't write these books I'm not writing them as a psychologist or as a counselor. I'm writing them as a mom, just as a parent who's been through these situations that countless other parents have gone through, or just not sure how to start a conversation. So I wasn't sure when I knew I always wanted to write a children's book. I wasn't sure what the topics were going to be. So it kind of just sort of developed from things that I went through, and I felt I was able to really write about them because they were so relatable and personal. So it kind of became an easy choice for me as to what the topic for the series would be.
Now, before I ask you where folks can find the books and where folks can find out more about you, I want to know, the topics that you've written so far have been personal. You've shared that these are kind of things that you've dealt with and that your family's dealt with. So you've kind of written from a very, personal, I learned these things from going through them. And you shared with us that future topics aren't going to be as personal. How are you planning on learning about those different issues and what kind of things families are going through?
Well, so for the 5th book, for example, the one coming out about gay families, I actually, and in this book you'll see on the back cover, and then in the inside we have, a page which says, I think the page says something like a message from our LGBTQ friends. I have about a dozen or so friends who are either, who told me stories, their little stories, so it's a little blurb from their stories, or comments to me about why they felt books like this were important to get out there, and either from the perspective of a gay parent, that they wanted their kids to get messages like this, or from the perspective of a gay adult who didn't have books like this when they were younger, or resources like this, and it wasn't acceptable to be, to either have parents that were out or to be out yourself. So I did interview about a dozen or so people. During the course of this, and why I just felt it was an important topic to get out there and not relatable to me on a personal level, my oldest daughter ended up coming out and telling us that she was she was with a woman. So it did become actually relatable in the middle of writing the story. As far as future topics that I have not been through myself, the same kind of thing. I mean, I'm going to try to, aside from doing research, just capturing the feelings of people I know who've been through these situations and like what kind of messages they feel are important to get out there.
Well, it's very important for us to get out the information where folks can find out more about Freeda the Frog series, more about you, and where they can find the books.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for asking. So my website and my social media are all, it's all the same word. It's all the same name. It's Freeda the Frog. So on Facebook, Instagram, I'm very active on Instagram, and a little bit on Facebook and Twitter. It's Freeda the Frog. So it's Freeda the Frog, all one word. And it's just so you can remember, it's spelled that way because it's spelled free, Free, so that to encourage kids to be free to express who they are and express their feelings. So Freeda the Frog. And then my website, same thing, is freedathefrog.com.
Excellent.
And everything, and that actually has direct purchase links and more information about the books, the leveling information for the schools, events that we're doing, past events that we've done. And the books are also available on Target, on Barnes & Noble, on Amazon, and a bunch of other websites.
That's wonderful. We have been speaking to the author of the Freeda the Frog series, Nadine Haruni. Nadine, thank you so much for being part of our show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This was great.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Vicki Weber. She is the author of a beautiful book called Aurora's Orchid. It's a really, really fun conversation. We celebrate the beautiful island of Puerto Rico. We celebrate orchids. We celebrate playing the recorder. We just celebrate kids and family and reading and a whole lot of great things. That's the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. If you are the author of a fantastic children's book, we would love to have you as a guest on the podcast. Being a guest gives you the chance to tell thousands of people about your fantastic book. It's fun, it's easy, and it doesn't cost a thing. All you need to do is to go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com, click on the contact button that you find at the bottom of the page. Let us know about your great book. We'll let you know the next easy steps. We want to thank the folks who made today's show so very wonderful. Of course, we want to thank our guest, Nadine Haruni. Be sure to check out her Freeda the Frog series. I also want to thank the members of my team. I want to thank my amazing producer, Fatima Khan. She is wonderful. Be sure to check out her blog at readingwithyourkids.com. I want to thank my author ambassador, Peggy Cotto. She is also wonderful. If you are an author and you're looking for help promoting your book, Peggy is the person for you to contact. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me, but most of all, I want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.